10 Hollywood stars who passed away after 2020. Number 1. Bob Newhart died on July 18, 2024, at his home in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 94, ending one of the longest and most consistently beloved careers in the history of American comedy. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, the same cemetery that holds many of the greatest names in Hollywood history. Newhart had built his career on a style of comedy so distinctly his own that it became impossible to imitate convincingly. His stammering, understated delivery and his ability to make silence funnier than most comedians could make words were recognized almost immediately when his debut comedy album was released in 1960, winning the Grammy Award for Album of the Year. He was the first comedian to win that honor. He went on to star in two of the most successful sitcoms in television history, The Bob Newhart Show in the 1970s and Newhart in the 1980s, both of which ran for years and both of which ended in ways that became part of television history in their own right. The finale of Newhart, in which his character woke up beside his wife from the earlier show, is still considered one of the greatest endings in sitcom history. He won the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2002, received a Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award, and remained active in his career well into his 80s, earning an Emmy nomination in 2013 for his guest role on The Big Bang Theory. Bob Newhart was born on September 5, 1929, in Oak Park, Illinois. He died at the age of 94. Number 2. Bob Barker died on August 26, 2023, at his home in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 99, just a few months short of his 100th birthday. He was cremated, and his ashes were buried in the front yard of his Los Angeles home alongside the ashes of his wife Dorothy Jo Gideon, who had died in 1981, and with whom he had shared more than 30 years of marriage. There is no public grave, no cemetery, no marked site where fans can visit him. Only a private home where two people who loved each other for most of their adult lives now rest side by side. Barker had hosted The Price is Right for 35 years, from 1972 to 2007, making it the longest-running daytime game show in American television history, and making him one of the most familiar faces in American households for multiple generations. His daily sign-off reminding viewers to have their pets spayed or neutered became one of the most recognized phrases in television history, and reflected a genuine lifelong commitment to animal rights that he pursued with as much energy as his broadcasting career. He had been a consistent and vocal advocate for animal welfare throughout his life, donating millions of dollars to animal rights organizations and making the cause a central part of his public identity in a way that few other celebrities of his era had done. The decision to be buried at home with Dorothy was entirely consistent with a man who had spent more than 4 decades honoring her memory, and who had always made it clear that their relationship was the most important thing in his life. Bob Barker was born on December 12, 1923, in Darrington, Washington. He died at the age of 99. Number 3. Betty White died on December 31, 2021, just 17 days before her 100th birthday, and was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, in a private ceremony attended only by her closest family and friends. She had specifically requested that there be no public memorial, a wish her family honored completely, giving one of television's most public figures an entirely private goodbye. White had spent more than 8 decades in show business, a record that no other entertainer in American television history has come close to matching. She had been performing on television since its earliest days in the late 1940s and was still working, still sharp, and still beloved by audiences of all ages right up until the end of her life. She is perhaps best known for her role as Rose Nyland on The Golden Girls, the cheerfully naive character whose innocent observations consistently delivered the show's biggest laughs. But her career before and after that role was equally remarkable. She won 7 Emmy Awards across her career, was given the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and in 2010 hosted Saturday Night Live at the age of 88, after a fan campaign petitioned the show to invite her. Her death on New Year's Eve prompted an outpouring of grief that felt genuinely personal to millions of people who had grown up watching her and had assumed she would simply go on forever. Betty White was born on January 17, 1922. In Oak Park, Illinois, she died at the age of 99. Number 4. Regis Philbin died on July 24, 2020, at his home in Greenwich, Connecticut at the age of 88, and was buried at the University of Notre Dame Cemetery in Notre Dame, Indiana, a location that reflected one of the deepest and most consistent passions of his life. Philbin had been a devoted Notre Dame fan his entire adult life, having attended the university in the 1950s, and being buried on its grounds was a decision that meant a great deal to him personally. The choice of burial location surprised some fans who associated him entirely with New York and the television world he had inhabited for decades, but those who knew him well understood immediately. His connection to Notre Dame had never faded no matter how far his career had taken him, and the university had recognized that loyalty by awarding him an honorary degree. Philbin had been one of the most visible and enduring personalities in American television, hosting Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, and later Live with Regis and Kelly for decades, and setting the Guinness World Record for the most hours logged on American television by a performer. He had also hosted Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which became one of the most watched game shows in television history. His warmth and genuine curiosity about the people he interviewed made him one of the most naturally likable presences in a medium that produced many performers, but very few personalities as authentically themselves. Regis Philbin was born on August 25, 1931 in New York City. He died at the age of 88. Number 5. Bob Saget died on January 9, 2022, and was found unresponsive in his hotel room at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida. He was 65 years old. The medical examiner later determined that he had died from blunt head trauma, likely the result of an accidental fall, and that he had gone to sleep without realizing the severity of the injury. He was buried at Mount Sinai Memorial Park in Los Angeles, California. Saget had spent his career navigating two very different public identities simultaneously. To millions of families who had watched Full House throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, he was Danny Tanner, the warm and wholesome single father whose gentle wisdom anchored one of the most beloved family sitcoms of its era. To comedy audiences, he was something entirely different, a stand-up comedian known for material so deliberately outrageous that it was almost impossible to reconcile with the Danny Tanner persona. He had been comfortable with the contradiction and had spoken about it openly in interviews throughout his career, accepting that different audiences knew entirely different versions of him and finding something genuinely funny in the gap between them. His death was a shock to the entertainment world, which had seen him just days earlier performing a stand-up set in Jacksonville and posting enthusiastically about how well the show had gone. The suddenness of it left his friends, colleagues, and fans struggling to process a loss that had arrived without warning. Bob Saget was born on May 17, 1956, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He died at the age of 65. Number 6. Matthew Perry died on October 28, 2023, and was found unresponsive in the jacuzzi at his Los Angeles home. He was 54 years old. The cause of death was determined to be the acute effects of ketamine, a drug he had been receiving as part of a treatment program for depression and anxiety. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, in a private ceremony attended by his closest friends and family, including his former castmates from Friends. Perry had spent much of his adult life fighting addiction, a struggle he had written about with extraordinary honesty in his memoir Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, published just a year before his death. He had been sober for extended periods and had relapsed multiple times, and he had spoken publicly about his determination to use his own experience to help others who were fighting the same battles. To the world, he was Chandler Bing, the quick-witted, sarcastic, emotionally guarded member of the Friends ensemble, whose humor masked a genuine vulnerability that Perry himself understood from the inside. The show had made him one of the most recognizable actors on earth, and the love audiences had for the character he played was genuine and lasting. 5 people were later charged in connection with his death, including his personal assistant and 2 doctors who had provided ketamine outside of proper medical oversight. Matthew Perry was born on August 19, 1969. In Williamstown, Massachusetts, he died at the age of 54. Number 7. Tony Bennett died on July 21, 2023, in New York City at the age of 96, and was buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, New York, a cemetery that has served as the final resting place for some of the most significant figures in American music history. His burial in New York rather than California was entirely fitting for a man who had always been a New Yorker at his core. Born in the borough of Queens, and shaped by the city in ways that never left him regardless of where his career took him. Bennett had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016, a diagnosis that was kept private for several years before he and his family chose to share it publicly in 2021. What made his story particularly remarkable was that even as the disease progressed, his ability to sing remained largely intact, a phenomenon that neurologists found genuinely significant and that allowed him to continue performing and recording long after the disease had affected other areas of his cognition. His final recordings were made with Lady Gaga, a partnership that had begun years earlier and that produced 2 albums, the second of which was recorded after his diagnosis was public, and which many considered among the most moving musical documents of recent years. He had spent a career of more than 7 decades recording standards, winning 20 Grammy Awards including the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and remaining one of the most respected voices in American popular music. Tony Bennett was born on August 3, 1926, in Astoria, Queens, New York. He died at the age of 96. Number 8. Sidney Poitier died on January 6, 2022, in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 94, and was buried in a private ceremony in the Bahamas, the island nation where he had been born, and which he had always considered his true home regardless of the extraordinary career that had taken him across the world. The burial location was kept private by his family, with no public grave made available to fans. Poitier had made history in 1964 when he became the first black man to win the Academy Award for Best Actor, receiving the honor for his performance in Lilies of the Field. The significance of that moment, in the context of the era in which it occurred, was enormous, arriving at a time when the civil rights movement was reshaping American society and when the image of a black man being celebrated at the highest level of the American film industry carried a weight that went far beyond the award itself. He had spent his career choosing roles deliberately and carefully, consistently pushing back against the kinds of parts that the industry had historically offered to black actors, and insisting on playing characters with dignity, intelligence, and complexity. Films like In the Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and To Sir with Love had made him one of the most important figures in Hollywood history, not just as a performer, but as a symbol of what the industry could be when it chose to look beyond its own limitations. Sidney Poitier was born on February 20, 1927. In Miami, Florida, he died at the age of 94. Number 9. Larry King died on January 23, 2021, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 87, after being hospitalized with COVID-19. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California in a private ceremony, joining the extraordinary collection of entertainment figures who rest in that cemetery. King had been one of the most recognizable faces in American broadcasting for more than half a century, conducting more than 50,000 interviews across his career, a number so large that it is almost impossible to comprehend. His show Larry King Live on CNN ran for 25 years, making it one of the longest-running programs in cable television history. And his willingness to interview anyone from presidents and world leaders to entertainers and ordinary people gave his program a range that few others have ever matched. He was known for his suspenders, his direct and unpretentious interviewing style, and his genuine curiosity about the people sitting across from him. He rarely prepared elaborate questions, preferring to listen and follow the conversation wherever it went. a technique that his guests often described as surprisingly disarming. His final years had been marked by serious health challenges, including a stroke and a cancer diagnosis. And his death from COVID-19 came during the early months of the pandemic, when the disease was still claiming lives at a devastating rate across the country. Larry King was born on November 19, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York. He died at the age of 87. Number 10. Donald Sutherland died on June 20, 2024 in Miami, Florida at the age of 88 after a long illness, ending a career that had spanned more than 6 decades and produced some of the most memorable performances in film history. He was cremated, and his ashes were retained by his family. There is no public grave for fans to visit, no marker, no cemetery where anyone can pay their respects in person. That absence feels particularly significant for an actor who was so physically present on screen, whose tall frame and expressive face made him one of the most recognizable performers of his generation. He appeared in over 200 films and television productions across his career, working with some of the greatest directors in cinema history, and consistently delivering performances that critics admired even when the films around him did not always deserve them. He was widely considered one of the greatest actors never to receive an Academy Award nomination during the competitive voting period, an oversight so glaring that the Academy eventually corrected it by awarding him an honorary Oscar in 2017, acknowledging a career that had somehow been consistently overlooked by the formal awards process despite its extraordinary quality. He was known for MASH, Clute, Ordinary People, and The Hunger Games, and his son Kiefer Sutherland followed him into acting and became a major star in his own right. Donald Sutherland was born on July 17, 1935. In St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. He died at the age of 88.